incredible founders in the building, the one and only Kelly Rutherford, as well as Molly Hanten, and they founded this company called Shop Sovereign. Now, some background on how this kind of came to fruition. During COVID, I interviewed Kelly for an Instagram Live, and I don't think I've ever interviewed someone where I felt so inspired. Not even as much, I mean, your story is inspiring too, but just your wisdom and spirituality, and I just loved everything about you. So when I saw that you guys had launched this company, I knew I just had to interview both of you. So I would love for you guys to kick it off by, how did this start? How did you guys meet? Because Kelly, this is different from what you've done in the past. Molly, would love to kind of hear you chime in and everything.
Yeah, well, I think, during COVID, so many people started new businesses or things that they had been thinking about doing, but maybe had not had the time to do. So that was partly what happened. But a mutual friend introduced Molly and I, and it was just sort of an alignment. I had been thinking about doing more sort of creative directing and how to use sort of all the things that I love, really. And when I was doing Gossip Girl, I was wondering why we couldn't shop the show. I thought, my gosh, if we could have shopped Gossip Girl, it would have been so wonderful. And now we're starting to see that take place, being able to do shoppable content and this and that. Molly and I both have and I'll hand it over to Molly. Well, we love, artisans and new brands, and we love the idea of being able to shop a city. Yeah. When you travel to Europe and there's things you bring back, and your friends are like, "Where'd you get that?" And you're like, "Oh, it was this little shop, and I don't know." And so the idea of having a website where you can really shop the city, have a city guide. We're creating a magazine and a podcast that's shoppable, that's connected to Sovereign Collective. So it won't be traditional marketing. It'll be through really hearing about the brands and their stories. So we have brands that, have 500 followers up to who knows how many, a lot of followers, and, a handbag for $30 and a handbag for, $1,500. So, and up. So we're really some call it like the least snobby people in fashion.
Yeah.
I love cool brands, right?
Which is so cool. And Molly, your background, were you always in kind of the tech, entertainment, fashion space?
No, I've been, an entrepreneur, but I was in the fitness industry. So I owned and operated a group fitness concept that was like CrossFit mixed with yoga. And then we did online as well. But this same with Kelly was just my passions. I loved traveling, and I basically loved to shop when I traveled. And then that was all taken away. So slowly I was kind of wondering why in, 2020, was it not possible to go online and find this store that I really fell in love with in Capri, Italy. And of course, thought to myself, like, oh, someone should really build this. And then, one day during COVID, I was like, I'm just going to figure out how to build it. And then I had just barely, I had my concept and the rough tech, and then met with Kelly. And then she kind of opened my mind up to all the other ways that we could do it with the shoppable content and really creating the experience of taking people to these places. And then it just started creating magic.
And the name Sovereign, how did that come about?
Well, we were thinking, because each of the brands has their own storefront, and we're not sort of buyers. It's not wholesale. We're not telling them what they should sell. We're not, in that space. It was more their sovereign shops on the platform, but it's a collective of brands. So that's how we came up with it. And I think sovereign's a big word right now in terms of just what's going on in the world, and I think more people are looking to be able to be their own storefront on a platform versus maybe having to do retail or having to do wholesale.
Molly, something that you said that's actually really interesting is that you had this idea and you just pursued it. And I like to always think that what sets entrepreneurs apart from people who aren't entrepreneurs is a lot of times people have that idea, but they're just too scared to do it. And Kelly, this is a little bit different from what you've done in the past, being in entertainment and in front of the camera. So how do you guys classify an entrepreneur? Now that you and Molly, obviously you have, your experience from your other company, what would you both say you can define an entrepreneur as?
anyone that has an idea that acts on it, I mean, that creates a business from their concept, I would suppose.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'd say just someone who can execute, because that's part of this first stage is like, oh, do you have every single step figured out until, the next 10 years? And it's like, no, that's the job of an entrepreneur, is to solve every problem as they come. And the first one is starting.
And how about those moments though? Because I've been an entrepreneur for way too many years now, and I still have moments where I'm like, this is too hard. How do you guys personally, even being business partners, overcome those moments, if you have any of them, where you're like, I literally don't understand this, or this is too hard, or I'm going to go back to what I was doing before? Do you have any of those moments?
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing what I did before and this and other things. So for me, it's just fun to sort of be fully expressed creatively, and so you can do that in many different avenues. I think it's finding the right business partner, finding somebody that you really trust and you love bouncing ideas off of, and you can say, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this or this, and you talk through it, and you find a way. Between who Molly knows, who I know, there's always somebody that can help us find an answer or a way through.
Do you think that having a business partner is the best way to make a company successful?
You don't have to, but I mean, if you're fortunate, there's no way I would understand how to do half of what Molly does. So I'm always, I think, very appreciative and in gratitude for the talents that she has and the expertise she has. So, I think it's finding somebody that balances you out. I think it's like any good relationship, healthy relationship, is that you can communicate well, that you really, have a similar vision, obviously, and are open to other ideas, and that each of you brings something that the other can really, that you both appreciate what each other does.
I'm really curious as well. So your background, and especially being on such an iconic show, what have you kind of learned about the process of becoming successful through that show that you feel like can inspire someone else who wants to pursue something or is really frustrated and is thinking about giving up until even now when you've started your other projects and even this, because everyone along the way, and I assume even before you got on that show, you must have faced some rejection. Molly, I assume with any of your other companies and endeavors, rejection is such a big part of the process. So from both of you, how do you get to a place where you become comfortable enough to still pursue things even when the rejection is hard?
Well, Molly, you had a business right before this too, right?
Yeah. And rejection was a part of that and how it got me onto the path that I'm on now. And so I think leaning into that, like trusting the universe, but not to the point where you don't take action. So for me, that was leaving that company and then using that as fuel to take action into the next step. And then even before Kelly and I met, I had a conversation with like a really big VC that I was super excited about and got obviously rejected from that. And now, in the moment, it's like that hurts so bad, but I think that separates successful entrepreneurs is you can either give up, like you said, or find where the next path leads you to, which for me, I've been very thankful because I would never want to do this without Kelly, now. So
are there any moments along the way for you, especially with the acting, where you felt like you wanted to give up? Like anything in particular that stood out to you?
So many times you just come home and think, what am I doing? And but you persevere, so much of it is you have a good pity party, you have a good cry, you call a friend, you have a laugh, and you keep going. I think like with everything in life, even when it comes to like mental health or when we have times that are challenging, is to trust, say, okay, this is alchemizing something within me that's going to take me to the next place. There's an alchemy that's happening, when you're going through those moments. And it's also being able to sort of readjust your focus and say, okay, and to really trust that you're being divinely guided and protected. You don't have to force anything. You don't have to make something happen. You just have to keep showing up as you and keep creating. Do you know what I mean? And there are days you just don't feel like doing that. And that's okay too. We all need days where we're just like, I'm out. I'm not doing any of it. I just don't want to think about it. But it just has to become fun. I think if you so much of life is just, trusting, you know, and if you don't know, step away from it for a minute and allow the universe to bring it into you, you know, because we think we're supposed to know everything and we're not. It's like, you know, growing up, we think our parents know everything, and we get older, we go, oh my God, they don't know anything.
I don't think anyone knows anything.
No, you know, they do, obviously. They're wise in their ways, but they don't know all the things we thought they knew. And even if they did, we are here to have our own experience.
Totally. So to get into the kind of nitty gritty behind the website, so you guys meet and you have, you know, Molly had this idea and she wants to bring you on board. So did you start just building out this website? I mean, what was the first step for both of you? Because I find that especially young entrepreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs in general, but especially ones who are younger, it's always really that first step. Like you have the idea and then what's next? So how did you guys start to cultivate what these steps were to get to where it is now?
I think we just saw the bigger vision. I think we just kept talking, and we still sort of talk about the bigger vision. We don't get caught up so much in the details, and Molly's really great about that, because you're like, oh, we can figure that out. We'll do this. We can do that. I'm like, oh, okay, good, because, you know, can we go over here? Can we do this? So it's seeing the bigger vision and knowing that you will find the resources or have the resources to build out the rest of it.
I'm curious too, did you guys create a business plan? No, love that.
Yes, we did. We built like a pitch deck, you know, and but it's so funny. You look back on it, you know, even 6 months later, and you're like, okay, we have to totally redo that, because you know, it changes. And I think that's part of a successful business partnership, and in the long run, a successful business, is that like anyone who thinks that they have it all figured out from day one is probably not going to succeed, because they can't learn, pivot, and change. And that's what's been, what Kelly was saying before, so great about like our partnership, is we can sit down and, you know, address one little issue at a time. That for the long run and the big vision it's the only way to go.
So I would assume then something like Instagram Shop. So when that dropped, that was probably maybe something that during the Gossip Girl days, Instagram wasn't really around back then, was it? When even was Gossip Girl?
No, there was a lot. I even had done like kellyrutherford.com, where we were recommending all these different things. It was like a little mini Goop, you know, she was doing Goop, and I was like, okay, maybe we could do some, but at that time there was no shoppable content. So it was very different. There was no way to monetize all those things. So it was just recommending things. So now things have changed a lot. Since Gossip Girl.
And in terms of competitors for both of you, there's a bunch of these marketplaces and stuff out there, but even websites like Shopbop, I feel like are not as common anymore as they used to be. So how have you decided, for both of you and your background, to set this company apart from the like limited, you know, kind of marketplace and kind of concept stores that are out there, aside from it being both of you guys with the products and everything? What stands out to you?
Well, it's not just fashion. So a lot of them are more just fashion based and quick fashion, let's say. And ours is much more artisan based and slow fashion and sustainability and art and men, women, kids, and many, many different price points, and from around the world. So you're finding things you wouldn't find really anywhere else, unless you were walking the streets of Paris or walking the streets of Kiev or wherever. And it's curated. So we've just been curating it ourselves now. So it's definitely just thinking, I think, what would my daughter love? What would my son love? What would you love? And sort of building out from our own style, but then also like, you know, what do you think we don't see a lot everywhere? And then again, that it's shoppable and that there's content being built out around it that is a different way of marketing, because I think we're all really unsubscribing a lot when we get the big sell. So, and we're just inundated. I think our nervous systems are like, enough. Like I would rather buy a unique little piece of pottery from, you know, Mexico, or some little artisan today, small meaning, you know, smaller brand artisan or small business, than, you know, just be completely bombarded with these marketing and mass produced everything. So it's just more special. I don't know. It's more
special, and it brings it brings like the face of the brand and the stories of the brand forward. So like what Kelly was just saying, you could buy, you know, a piece of pottery at I don't know if I should name the names or not, but like
somewhere,
or, you know, somewhere big that we all know and shop, that very well could have come from a wonderful artist somewhere, but the name Target is slapped on it, and you know, the price point is changed. And we're trying to actually like bring human beings, like when you travel, to the actual creators and the entrepreneurs and actually highlight their stories versus the opposite. And then also like with other shopping websites, of course, there's a ton of amazing ones, but a lot of times to get on there, you have to be this big brand who's been discovered and has an agent and has press and a PR team. And a lot of the bigger websites as well carry all the same brands. And ours is for, you know, the entrepreneur that really has created a Shopify website in Barcelona, and that's it. And now they have kind of a home to grow with us.
So do you just go right to them and you pitch?
I just DM a lot of
You
them
do, okay.
and say, I love your brand. Would you like to join our platform? And then Molly sends them all the information. And, you know, I think when you're doing it that way, it's so personal as well.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
I think it's a nice thing to have somebody reach out in that way. And even just with our magazine that we're doing, it's shoppable. We're featuring the brands. You could shop that city. And it's not overwhelming. It's not so much information. It's just enough that it's enjoyable to look at. You get a little city guide, and you get to learn a bit about the brands that you're shopping, which is really nice.
The difference between fast fashion and slow fashion, is that the term that you use?
Kind of, I guess.
Is that a term? Because I know about
It is.
fast fashion, I guess. I feel like I'm really out of the loop sometimes with things that young people are into, because I feel like I'm mentally 102.
Right.
So fast fashion is like some of these crappy kind of like off-site, like knockoff brands, right?
It's just anything that's mass produced, I believe. And it goes, and the turnover is really fast versus something that's handmade and there's only a small collection of it.
And oftentimes the people making fast fashion are like barely making a livable wage and have really poor conditions, and it goes into our landfill. It's a huge landfill issue.
Yeah. So it's obviously more ideal if you can to find a sovereign type of platform to shop from.
Yeah.
Over these fast fashion options. Molly, do you have kids?
I do not. No.
You don't? Okay, because okay, I was going to ask, I'm curious, just on a bit of a separate note, you know, from the access that young people have to social media nowadays and everything that they see, what do you tell your kids on how to properly use the internet, or if they're at the store? Because I feel like even when this Facebook whistleblower thing came out and all of this stuff came out about how social media is affecting young people, I mean, your children are how old?
12 and 15.
Yeah, so they're right in that age group of they are absorbing everything. How do you tell them, you know, love yourself, don't compare yourself to other people, don't be jealous of other people?
You know, I just tell them to look at everything like it's programming them. So it's an easier way, because then they can navigate it easier than, you know, the whole spiel, which is, you know, the music, you're being programmed, the TikToks, you're being programmed, everything. So pick your programs. And if it doesn't feel good to you, it's not a good program. And if it does, and if it feels like, okay, that elevates the love vibration or frequency, meaning just goodness in the world and the energy of love. I don't mean romantic love per se. Could be, but you know.
Love a 12-year-old guy.
Exactly. I'm like, what? Then, you know, then that's where, I mean, I believe that's where we come from and that's where we're going, and that everything else is just a distraction here on earth, that it's really navigating the distractions of programming and, you know, sort of lowering your vibration and keeping you kind of dumbed down. So if they can navigate that and know, and they roll their eyes at me and look at me, because, you know, most teenagers would, as me saying things like this. Most people would,
Of course.
Anyway, adults and children. But I think they do it, you know, it's just how you want to look at it. You know, every billboard, every TV show, you know, everything is, you know, there's something going on there behind it. So you want to just know and pick and choose. I don't listen to a lot of music and watch a lot of television, and I haven't watched the news in years.
Yeah.
So, but you end up finding out everything. I mean, I clearly know everything that's going on in the world without having to read a newspaper or turn on the news. So it's because of the way it makes you feel. And that's how you know. I just tell my kids, if you're watching something and you start to feel really ugh, just turn it off. You don't have to judge it, whatever. It's art in its own way, or it's information. All it is information. And you choose what information you want to allow into your field. Because it's too hard to say, don't go on TikTok. Or don't go on Instagram. I'm on Instagram half the day. I love it. Yeah. So, it's just that who I follow and the energy in which I'm using that platform is different, let's say. And I'm not following things that are going to give me mental health issues, or that I'm going to feel depressed after watching.
It's so easy, right? When you say it out loud, like it's so easy to not let these platforms ruin your life, but yet we're all just too obsessed with them.
Well, because we don't realize that you're it's having an impact on your energy and so when you start to feel bad, when you're listening to music that starts to make you can feel it when you're sort of in tune with your own home frequency, which just takes getting quiet and connecting up. When you're out of alignment, when it's like, ooh, that doesn't feel good to me for some reason. And you don't have to judge it. Again, it's not that's bad, that's good. It's just, we live in on earth where there's many different choices. And that's sort of the fun of life is making choices that align with you and the energy in which you want to feel. And I think a lot of people don't realize that they have that choice. So it's really always giving us choice to make. One's going to kind of lead you down the road of not feeling good. It's like food. Yeah. If you eat a bunch of sugar and drink a bunch of caffeine, you're probably not going to feel good. So it's just,
Yeah.
It's just, that's how it is.
Do you guys think that you would have been able to, or been as interested in launching a brand like this if it wasn't for social media? Like, how much of a role does social media play, in your guys' opinion, in the success right now of a brand?
I think a lot, just from the ability that you're able to spread. And like Kelly just said, it's all about like the energy. So like if you follow Shop Sovereign Collective, the energy of what we're just like sharing these beautiful brands and their stories. And just like Kelly said too, you have to curate who you're following. And what we're already seeing and feeling is this community of very excited, supportive people. And like nothing we do is also like shoving it down your throat of like 50% off today only. We don't do any of that. We just share these beautiful products and the amazing entrepreneurs behind them. And we want that to be one Instagram account you can follow to find beautiful things and feel those good feelings. So it depends. It can be really bad or really good.
Yeah. I watched an interview, I think it was Gwyneth Paltrow on Jimmy Fallon or something, and he asked her about a product that was like the most sold out product on Goop. And she had no idea. And I don't think she realized that she was saying it. And afterwards he was like, wait, you don't know what your products are? And she was like, well, there's so many products. And I just found that to be so interesting because, it's kind of like, this is not your brand because you're saying you're testing all of these. So I appreciate that you guys are going at it from this really organic, authentic standpoint, the DMing, the really finding these companies that stand out to you instead of trying to act like it's, very authentic and it's not. Like she didn't know what was on the site. And I found that to be just quite frustrating. But how do you both maintain everything that you do in a day? What are some techniques? I don't know, meditation, less coffee. What do you both do every day that keeps you really grounded?
Definitely more coffee.
More coffee.
Not less coffee. More coffee.
Okay.
But, for me, it's I don't have a lot of other distractions. So my day is not filled with a lot of other things. So I really love getting up and creating. So, I love getting up and talking to Molly and what are we doing today? And we plan things or have Zoom calls. And I love talking to people and seeing how they want to get involved and sharing what we're doing. We're talking, reaching out to brands and discovering new brands. And it's the same with my acting. I don't know. I loved going to set. I love going to set and engaging with people and other creative people. And so it's just an extension, I suppose, of and a global extension of connecting with people in a way that is a win-win.
Would you say that you say yes more or no more?
I say yes a lot before I can think about it, because if I think about it,
Yeah.
And Molly.
Yeah, saying yes. And I think going off of what Kelly said, it's also like we're having so much fun, and all the brands that we're meeting with are so much fun that I've never liked my work as much as I do now, because it definitely doesn't feel like it. And working with people and partners that you like being with, it makes it just super fun. So there's no, it's hard to say no then.
What about anything consistently that you guys do during the day to keep you grounded or extra happy, or if you're stressed out for a second or anxious?
I putter. I start like cleaning out a closet if
I
I
love
get stressed. I organize something, because there's always something to be organized. It's endless, right? Even if there's always a pot, I always just think, okay, get your mind off of it. Go, go make lunch, or go get the car washed, or I move. I think action is so important. Like when we're feeling overwhelmed, just get out and go for a walk, go get a coffee, go do something, call someone you've on your list that you need to call. So a lot of it is pivoting and moving the energy. It's moving with the energy instead of allowing yourself to get overwhelmed. And I think they always say, if you want to get something done, give it to a busy person, because there's momentum that you create by taking action. It doesn't mean you always feel 100. I mean, we show up on Zooms. I was saying, I used to have this big halo light and I'd have the outfit on. And now I show up to Zooms. My hair's like this. I'm like, there's no halo light. It's like I'm wearing my glasses. You have to be yourself. Yeah. I went from like, it was like pre-COVID Zooms to like now Zooms are like, okay, good. Okay, what do we do? Full on, so you kind of have to just go with it and not expect everything to be perfect. I mean, even with Molly, I mean, there's so many things I'm learning about every single day, and you just have to go, okay, that's what we're supposed to do.
And Molly, anything that you do during the day that keeps you grounded?
Movement as well, like going for walks sounds, I know everyone said that during COVID, but like that I thank God for. And then I was just laughing with Kelly like a few days ago about I almost always work out in the morning, and that really makes whatever it is, a little run, a little workout. And then the week that we launched the website, it was like I didn't do anything except sit on my computer and look at things. And so then the next week I showed up to me and Kelly was like, "You look so nice." I was like, "That's because I actually got up and took care of myself today." And
I showered today.
And you could wash my hair. Ebbs and flows, but usually some kind of like physical movement for me makes a really big difference in just how I show up to things.
Yeah, I agree. Working out is so big. I think though that ebb and flow of being an entrepreneur is what keeps anyone going, because there's just the moments where it's so bad and then it goes up and it's like down and it's just this constant, almost, you're never bored. But where do both of you envision Sovereign Collective being in the next, what's your end goal? 5-10 years? What would you like to see it become?
Well, I mean, ideally, I just think
I know I hate these. I hate the headphones.
Oh, they're good. I feel like I'm flying a plane. So
you're the cutest pilot out there, Kelly.
So yeah, I mean, when we first talked about it, we just really thought about shoppable content and even being able to be a hub for film production. So being able to, shop any TV show or at least right now we're just building out content that's shoppable. So instead of your typical commercial or instead of your typical marketing, is that, we can create something even like that Stanley Tucci show where he goes around, where I can go to Milan and we can go to Paris, or we can go whatever, and we can show you Paris, like, and meet all the brands, and then you can shop it. So it's from something sort of as simple as that to we're creating a podcast that you can do the same thing. And then, building it out to where we were talking to Meredith from Gossip Girl and Dynasty, she's a costume designer, and about how do we build this out where film productions can also use the platform in that way. Along with like city guides, we're building out fun city guides for people because of all these brands are telling us they're cool places to go. Molly, you about shopping the city, so it's kind of
that captures it. Like in 10 years to be like a full-on experience that you can still travel, but also you can do almost anything experiential wise, and then of course buy product through us. And anywhere in the world, hopefully in 10 years.
It's more fun. It really, I think it's more fun to shop that way.
Yeah.
You know, when you see friends walking around and what they're wearing, because that's how we do it. I'm like, oh, look at that. Look at your dress. Look at, you know, what lipstick color is that? What, you know.
And that is actually what an influencer is, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that you need to have 1 million followers to have influence or power. And I think it's really frustrating now that the only way that someone thinks that you have influence is by this stupid number on a fake, you know, like a platform that is not bringing any value to the world. So I think that's something like this, especially for TV. I love the idea because you're right. You could never, like, imagine if you could have shopped Carrie Bradshaw's closet.
I know.
Right.
Like how cool would that have been? So I guess I only have one last question. I feel like I'd be a bad interviewer if I didn't ask. I haven't seen it, but does the new Gossip Girl, is it good? Like, how does this come to fruition? Are they supposed to do another one with all of the OG people?
I have no idea. I really don't. I know that they did the new one.
Yeah.
And that was funny because when I was just outside, I just posted on Instagram because as I looked to the left, there was the big poster.
That's what they said. It's out there.
XOXO. So I took a picture of me, like a selfie of me with the new XOXO, you know, the new Gossip Girl billboard outside. So it was really funny. Just posted on the way in. I'm excited for them. And I think it's sort of the next generation, you know, I mean, I think rather than, I mean, it would have been fun to have a few of us on, I think kind of like Star Wars where we passed the torch sort of, and then it went on, you know, but they decided to kind of create a whole new capsule, you know, which I think is great. Why not? I mean,
Totally.
They're so good at what they do. And I had such a wonderful time working with Josh and Stephanie and everybody. So hopefully they're doing it again, you know, in this sort of new time. It's a different time than it was when we did Gossip Girl. So it's good that they've created something kind of new. And of course, everyone is going to take everyone a minute because they knew the original cast, but I think the new cast is really cool.
Did they come to you guys asking for?
They didn't ask us to do the show. They just obviously asked for support with press if somebody comes to us and says, you know, that we would obviously, you know, do press or whatever. So yeah, which happy to do.
That's very cool. You guys are both amazing. I'm obsessed with both of you. Where can everyone find Sovereign Collective on social media and buy items and everything?
Well, we're at Shop Sovereign Collective on Instagram, and then shopsovereigncollective.com, and then I'm just MB Hanten.
And yours is
at Kelly Rutherford.
Well, thank you guys both so much for being here.
Thank you.
I am deeply impressed. Hope everyone loved this episode as much as I did. It's so great, Molly, to meet you and see the dynamic between you two, because sometimes business partners can like really go at it. You guys seem like you found the perfect fit. So anyone who's listening or has watched this episode, find a business partner who has as much synergy as you guys find between you two. You can follow the podcast as well as myself on social media. It's just at Alexa_Curtis and at the new Unfiltered, and new updates for the Be Fearless Summit will come up as they do on the website, which is BeFearlessSummit.org, and on the Instagram, which is at Be Fearless Summit as well. And I'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.